In Tragedy, a true crime podcast, we discuss missing persons cases, violent crime, and other sensitive topics that may be difficult for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Our show is a place where every story matters and every voice deserves to be heard. To support this podcast, you can subscribe at www.tragedy@truecrimepodcast.com for early access to new episodes. And join our Facebook community, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, for updates, discussions, and ways to support the families we feature. Before we hear from Thomasene Butler, LaTonya's mom, we have some updates regarding this case and how it's progressing. So to remind everyone, one of the reasons why we are supporting this family is because we couldn't find any media coverage about LaTonya's death. In fact, the only reason that we even knew about it was because of one comment that someone made on a local Facebook page that was really a post about Jodi Kilgore. And someone commented, "What about that young Black woman who was killed in Sopchoppy?"
Yeah, and keep in mind, too, I remember when we first looked at that, we're like, okay, first of all, what are you talking about? And then we did some of our generalized research as we do with every case, and we found absolutely nothing. So initially, I didn't even think it was true.
Yeah, fortunately, LaTonya's cousin, Vicky, who you heard from last week,
That's right.
She commented on that same post, and that is how I found Vicky. So this person commented, and Vicky said, "That was my cousin. You know, I wish somebody would do something to support us." And so I immediately reached out to Vicky through Facebook, and she responded immediately. And that's how we started. And after I first spoke with her, we started, as you were mentioning, we started to do a little bit of research. Generally, we can go, to Google, say, for example, when we were learning about Ian Rogers, and we were able to find several articles about him and sort of build a little bit of background. But what happened with LaTonya was very different. There was nothing. I checked WTXL, WCTV, the local news affiliates there. I checked social media. I searched her name on all of the local Facebook groups that I'm on, and I really was finding nothing. And it was very, very baffling. And Vicky, said, "Well, she's my cousin. I know this happened." And we weren't denying that it didn't happen. We were just very surprised that there was no coverage on it. So to get started, then after we had spoken with Vicky and with her help, we were able to get LaTonya's death certificate. And her cause of death is listed as homicide. Well, then we knew we definitely have an unsolved homicide in Wakulla County. And we were able then to connect with Vicky and Crystal and Thomasene, who you will hear from now, to be able to tell LaTonya's story. And it's our 1-year anniversary of our podcast this week, and we were reflecting on why we really started this work. And there were two main things that really led this work. And one is providing a platform for families and friends of victims of unsolved crimes to tell the story of their family member, their lost one. And our second purpose really is to provide exposure, bring exposure to cold cases, unknown cases, stories that are happening to marginalized people. And with this particular case, because there was nothing out there, we do want to talk about how our work with support from Vicky and Thomasene and Crystal has really changed the scope and the nature of LaTonya's story.
Yeah, one thing that's really compelling, too, is the things that have changed as far as the progress of this story. So, again, we've already stated there was nothing going on. There was nothing in the news. There was nothing going on with law enforcement. As far as they're concerned, it's a closed case. And that's just not the case anymore. So what's happening now is, to start with, one of the best updates we have for this case is I wouldn't say it's open yet. It's kind of interesting. This is kind of in a weird state right now. But the point is they're talking to law enforcement. Law enforcement's responding. They've stated and said things like, "We're going to get this case reopened." They're talking with the state attorneys. They're requesting documents. Now, I find it interesting that they're requesting documents from each other that we already have. So we'll be providing those to them as well, trying to help kind of expedite this process. But the good news is this conversation is happening now.
Yes, Thomasene did call the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office probably within a week of when we first spoke with Vicky. asked for someone to come out, and someone came out, and they've assigned a detective who is a part of Violent Crimes Division at the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office. This is a lieutenant, and she's been in really close contact with Vicky as far as kind of what they need. Now, I do want to echo what you said. Today, actually, we found out that the state's attorney's office is requesting the death certificate. And actually, Vicky even said, she said, can you remind me, does the death certificate say homicide? Because she doesn't have it. Thomasene has it. And I said, yes, it does. You sent me a picture. And she said, well, the state's attorney's office is asking for the death certificate, which is kind of what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. We have it. So obviously, Thomasene and Vicky have it. So, I mean, there is some movement, but it is a little bit confusing. Like, we have it. So why do they need to request it? We can just give it to them.
And we just got it from them. That's what makes it even more interesting.
Yes,
So yeah, it's definitely, it's definitely government work for sure. But so then the other big change is, again, we talked about before in this conversation that there's been no media coverage. Would you like to talk about what's happening with the media?
Yeah, so we understand from Vicky that she herself has been interviewed by a local reporter from WTXL, and that also Thomasene and Crystal will be interviewed. Now, this is all very recent, just within the last 24 hours. That reporter is relaying to Vicky that she needs to speak with the state's attorney's office and with the sheriff's office before she moves forward with the story. Again, we don't understand why. But apparently that's part of the procedure. The good news is that when Vicky did contact this reporter, she did come and speak with her. They've done the interview. So now we're just waiting to see if they actually run the story. And this happened with with Ian. And, the reporter came and did the story, and it was weeks, I think even months before it was actually aired. But there is some movement. There will hopefully be some local media coverage. And so that's big, right? More exposure, more people hearing LaTonya's name and hearing about what happened to her.
Yeah. And lastly, one of the things that we look at is, obviously we're a social media platform. That's what we're trying to do. And that's what, that's kind of how we're getting the word out. And we do look at a lot of metrics. Now, I don't look at the metric from the perspective of here's how good we're doing. I look at the metrics from the perspective of how many people are saying this person's name, because we talked about the importance of people's name getting said. And so what's nice about it is from a download perspective, just since we started talking about LaTonya's story, over 1,500 people have listened to that story in 72 different countries and over 1,000 cities. And so this went from being a story that was not even known in Wakulla County itself to now this is known across the world. And we're going to keep pushing that and keep getting those numbers higher and higher. And as far as even the exposure, you had some additional numbers on your side.
Yes, on our Facebook page, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, when I post an episode, I can see what Facebook calls post reach. And the first episode that we did on LaTonya has 11,000 people who that post was pushed out to. So, and I watch them pretty consistently. The others are pushing like 3,000, 4,000. But that 11,000 post reach is our second highest of any post I've ever made in that group as far as how many times Facebook has pushed that post out to people.
So no matter what, if we haven't accomplished anything at all, what we have accomplished is now when you go onto the internet and you search for LaTonya's story, you're going to find something. You're going to find us talking about it. I'm hoping you're going to find whatever WTXL is putting together. So hopefully whatever approvals they need to get, they can get that story posted. And you're going to be able to see her name and you're going to be able to hear her story.
And we will continue to update everyone as we hear what happens with the state's attorney's office. If Vicky does end up going up there, if they do choose to reopen the case, we will update you all accordingly. And now that we've provided those updates, let's get into our interview with Thomasene, LaTonya's mom. Welcome to Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast. I'm Elisa.
And I'm Michael.
Today, we're honored to be joined by someone whose love for LaTonya runs deeper than words can fully capture, her mother, Thomasene Butler. There is no way to measure a loss like this and no easy way to speak about it. But through that grief is also a story of love, of connection, and of a bond that continues even in absence. Miss Butler is here to share her daughter with us, not just the loss, but the life, the memories, the moments, and the person LaTonya was to those who knew and loved her most. Miss Butler, thank you for being here and for trusting us to help tell LaTonya's story, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Before we talk about LaTonya, we would like to know a little bit about you. So tell us about you.
My name is Thomasene Butler, and I'm LaTonya's mother, and she was the youngest of the 4 children I had.
And what? Oh, go ahead.
That's about it. Yeah, she was the youngest one of my children I had. Yeah.
And what are some of your favorite memories of LaTonya?
Oh Lord, me and her used to ride to the store together. We used to do things together. Just about every little thing we used to kind of like do together. We was mother and daughter, but we was friends too. We were just everything. Everything a mother could ask for in a daughter. Yes.
Yes, I think I understand. I have one child and also a daughter, and there's something really special about that relationship and the things that we do with our daughters now. I don't have a son, but I feel like it's a little different, the things that we do with our daughters. I took trips with her and we go to the spa and things like that. So I do understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
What would you like people to know and our listeners about LaTonya's story and what happened to her?
Well, I don't know exactly yeah, I know what happened to her. But she was abused, and then she was staying with a guy. He was much older than she was, and I guess jealousy too on top of it. And I'm thinking he was the one that choked her out, and after he choked her out, it formed into a clot in her throat, and it stopped the oxygen from going to her brain, and that's what really healed her.
Was this a new relationship, or had she been with him for quite some time?
Well, it was about let me see, it might have been a 6-month relationship, I'm thinking.
And she was living with him at the time that this event occurred. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. I want you to try, if you can, to kind of think about maybe that time period, that 6-month period that she was in a relationship with him. Do you remember her saying anything to you about that relationship, or anything unusual, or maybe some changes in behavior that you saw during that time?
Let me see that I don't, if she might have spoke to her friend Krista about it, but she didn't never tell me about it.
And this might be kind of difficult to talk about, but we understand that you went to the place where she was living when you hadn't spoken with her for a day or so. Can you tell us about that day?
I was at work, and it just fell on. No, I was at work, and he the man that she was staying with, he called me and asked me, did she go to work today? And I told him no, she didn't come to work today. I was looking for her, but she didn't come. And so he said that, well, I'm a get somebody to go and look in the house to see what's going on with her. And by that time, we went down there, and that's when we found her on a love seat with like she was up under what it was. She was up under the love. They had put her up under the love seat, and she couldn't get from up on it. And then when she was in the hospital, they had security guards up there. I don't know whether it's the hospital security guard or the Leon County security guards or whatever. But anyway, they had officers up there guarding that room. And she was in ICU.
Do you know why they assigned guards to watch the room?
Yes, because I'm thinking that the one who choked her out, they was, I guess, not hoping, I guess, hoping he might try to come back and finish off or whatever. I don't know. But that's what they had there. And she just only lays for 2 to 3 days. I think 2.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was you and one of your other children who went and found her and made the 911 call.
Yes, my son, Sylvius Thomas. But he went in the house. It was me, Ann Sanders, and him went in the house. And we couldn't find her right then, but we searched over the house, and she was laying up on a love seat. Somebody had put her up on a love seat that she couldn't get out. And my son picked her up, and I thought she was dead, but she wasn't. And she turned her head, and that's when Ann Sanders called 911.
And at what point did someone from the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office come and speak to you? Was it at the hospital or was it on site?
No, they didn't even come and speak to me. I went up there after she passed and everything. We buried everything. Then I went up there to see what I can get done. And they told me that they had to I don't know what they told me. They told me they was gonna turn it. No, they told me they was gonna turn it over to the state attorney. That's what it was. Yeah. And I was going up there every month trying to see what was going on. And the only thing the state attorney told me that if nobody don't step up and say they did it, ain't nothing they could do about it.
Fortunately, I was able to get some documentation from the sheriff's office with the investigation that they did, and that aligns with what you recall, in that they did take a probable cause document to file charges up to the state's attorney's office. But as you just said, the state's attorney's office declined to file those charges and then closed the case.
Right. Because they said that, and if nobody don't step up and see the thing about it, the man that she was staying with, they never did arrest him. I don't think they did. They never did. Because he had an alibi that he went to the hospital that day, that evening. So he had an alibi.
Yes, I do.
But
I do recall that.
But he called me from where I was working at and told me and asked me, hey, she came to work. And I said, no. And he said, well, I'm going to get somebody to go in my house and see what's going on.
And we do know from speaking with Crystal that she did witness a conflict between the two of them. I believe it was a couple of days before you all found him. And Crystal spoke with us, and we also see that in the police report. So we do know that she did report this altercation. So I do think it's interesting that maybe they just needed more information from her or someone to say that they saw him physically putting his hands on her to be able to move this case forward a little bit. Also, can you talk about the case being reopened? Because I know that's happened in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm glad they opened it back up. It's been 10 years now. And I'm glad they opened it back up because I need to get justice. It been 10 years, and I don't know what happened to her. I know she was choked to death. I know that because that's what the autopsy. I mean, the the death certificate said.
And when you spoke with the sheriff's office just recently within the last few weeks, how did that conversation go and what are the next steps?
Well, I talked to a deputy come out here and talked to me, and he gave me a investigator's number, and I haven't talked to none of them since.
So no one has come back to you with a detective or anything like that, except that you have the detective's name at this point.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
You talked a little bit.
One come out here about 3 or 4 weeks ago and gave me his name. I don't forgot his name. And then he gave me the case number. But I never I ain't they ain't got back with me on nothing yet.
Mhm. And that also aligns with the information that I have. The date that the phone call was made and that a representative of the sheriff's office came out, reopened the case, and that they would get back to you with the name of the investigator. So that is exactly the same thing that I've been reading in the documentation that I received from the sheriff's office.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you talked a little bit about justice. What does justice or accountability look like to you?
What are you saying? What kind of justice I want or what? What is it?
Yes, exactly. You said you would like justice, and what is justice
Yes,
to you?
I would like justice. I would like for whoever did it to spend life in prison. Yeah, for killing my baby daughter. Not only my baby daughter, any of my children. I had 4 children. Yeah, and she was the first one died.
And what would you like for the people in Crawfordville to do to support you? Is there something that we can ask the community to do for you?
What?
Yeah, I'm wondering a little bit about some of the things that we know have been happening for another person who was killed in Crawfordville that's unsolved with Jody Kilgore, and how that family gets together and they hold events around the day of his death and his birthday. And I'm just wondering if that is something that you feel like the community could support you with organizing those kinds of things for LaTonya.
Well, I don't have a big family. I only have 2 sisters, and that's about it. And I have a friend, maybe, and that's about it. I mean, maybe on her daddy's side, they might could help support it, but that's all. That's all the family members I have.
Yeah, so we hope that by people listening, because to be honest with you, LaTonya's name is not a name that we knew, and it's not a story that we had heard of, and so we hope that our part here by getting her name out and having you and Crystal and Vicky share her story, that the community maybe they have also not heard about her, and maybe that's the first step in creating some support for you and the family.
Yeah, but they have heard LaTonya's name now. They have heard it, you know. But it been such a long time, a lot of people don't wanna, you know, they don't wanna be a part of nothing. They could, but they don't want to.
Well, I want to be part of something. And so one of the things that really kind of struck me, hard when I heard about this case is I was always under the impression that Jody Kilgore was the only unsolved murder in Wakulla County. And then we found out about this one. And I don't think it's right that it's not talked about. It's not the only unsolved. This one appears to also be unsolved. And as a
Yeah.
result, I think the community needs to know that.
So I'd like
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about what helps you get through some of the harder days when you think about LaTonya and the lack of justice for her. What helps you get through those kinds of days?
God, that's what helped me. God. I give it, I have to give it to God. I pray about it daily. You know, I think about it daily. I do.
Is there a particular church you go to?
No, I used to go to church, but since I had these strokes and stuff, I can't go because I'm on a cane and a walker, so
Understood.
I can't. Yeah.
How do you help keep her memory alive?
By sometime on my phone, I got pictures of her, and sometime I post pictures of her sometime, and sometime I look at her pictures on in the house and stuff, and you know, that's about it.
You mentioned that it's been several years since
No,
LaTonya.
yes, it been the 26th of this month right here made 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the impact that her death has had on you.
Oh Lord, it really it took all I could to keep myself together. It 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 drove me into a stroke, I'm thinking, and then after my other son died, uh not my other son, but my oldest son, he passed the next 5 years after she did, and that took a toll on me too. I just give it to God and let Him you know help me get through it. Or that He the only one that can give me peace.
This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The content presented is based on publicly available information, including records obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, media reports, and interviews. Any opinions expressed by the hosts or guests are their own and are not statements of fact. We make every effort to accurately present the information available at the time of recording. However, we do not claim that all information is complete, verified, or free from error. Any individuals discussed in this podcast are presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. References to allegations, investigations, or theories should not be interpreted as definitive conclusions. This podcast does not intend to defame, harm, or misrepresent any individual or entity. If any information presented is inaccurate, we welcome corrections and will make updates where appropriate.